Hi, this is Carlos Johnson, the friend of the family, and welcome back to part 2 of our training. Now, sit back, relax, and let's get powered up. There are no parents or caregivers that like to hear that sound. As we continue to look at sleep deprivation and how it affects our children's performance, now we're going to look at how sleep deprivation affects our children's moods. The lack of sleep can affect our children in key areas such as irritability, impatience. They can be short-tempered. They can have wide mood swings. None of us like to be around irritable adults. Just imagine a teacher with a classroom of 15 to 20 or 30 even irritable students who are impatient, short-tempered, and who have wide mood swings, all because they didn't get a good night's sleep. Imagine that. Also, lack of sleep could be the cause of bouts of depression. When our children are just sad, lack of sleep could cause our children to make poor judgment calls, make them impatient with others, particularly with their classmates. Let's face it, being in close proximity, being in close quarters with your friends all day long, not being mature enough to process different type of interactions, and you're tired, perfect recipe for kids to nip at one another, to pick fights with one another. It could be the perfect recipe for our children being Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, or Mrs. Hyde, swinging from happy to sad, or somewhere in between. As I mentioned earlier, let's talk about the extreme case of when our children don't have good rest. How long do your children sleep? If your answer is less than 7 hours a day, they could be at risk of cardiovascular disease. Diseases such as irregular heartbeats, heart attacks, coronary disease, or even angina. Again, I need to stress that these are extreme cases, but they are possibilities now in this very busy society where our homes aren't that very stable, where children are doing so many different things, where parents are working multiple jobs just to make ends meet. We need to be on the lookout for these extreme cases. It's not just our students that we need to be concerned about. We also need to be seriously concerned about our student athletes, those who not only have to use their brains for study, but combine that stress with the stress of physical exertion when they're athletes. The National Sleep Foundation and the American Academy of Pediatrics, they recommend that even our athletes get good rest because they're exerting their minds all day in school, and then out on the field they're working their bodies. They need good rest in order to be good in both areas. Okay, perfect. Now we're at the good part. Now we're going to take everything that we've learned and see if we can add just a couple of tips, power parenting tips for you to apply right at your address. Here's one for you. How about something as simple as a regular bedtime? A regular bedtime that says to everybody that this is the time you rest your body and your mind every single day. Whether it's 7, 8, 9, or 10 at your address, everybody should have a consistent bedtime. How about making sure that the room conditions, now that they're in bed, are conducive for good sleep? That there's not a lot of lighting, there's a lot of noise, there's not a lot of conversation going on in the room as well as around the room, so that when they get to bed on time and they finally put their heads down, that indeed they can sleep. Just 2 easy things we can do right at home. Institute a bedtime and make sure the room conditions are good for sleeping. Okay, got a couple other good ones for you, real easy to do. Make sure you end TV and video games at least 1 hour before bedtime. And why? Because having that kind of stimuli on the brain, video games where there's shooting and running and jumping and TV that's action-packed, is almost like giving your child sugar right before they go to bed. Give them time to wind down, maybe with a good book, before they go right to bed. It's like, if you do not, it's like giving them ice cream, cookies, and candy, and then say go right to bed. They are wired to stay up, and it's going to make it real hard to go to bed. Give them about an hour to wind down before the bedtime. Another good idea is to have some level of exercise that's in their life, so that when it is time to lay down, the bodies are tired and worn out enough to sleep. Just something, instituting and going to bed or cutting off all stimuli an hour before bedtime, and then some exercise. 2 good things you can do right at your address. The conclusion of the matter is simply this. To compete athletically, our youth need sleep because they need the energy for victory. To compete academically, our young people need sleep for energy for victory. If we do these small things, we'll have powerful children and we'll be powerful parents.